Hello and welcome back to the Age of Some Bros YouTube channel. This is SerSharkDad, and we have another podcast episode for you. Back by popular demand. They seem to be doing much better than any of the casts that we're putting out, so we're going to keep putting out podcasts with some nice little cozy beats on the background, and we have a new sort of format here, a little slideshow for you guys as opposed to the unprofessional home city background, so we're changing it up. So far, I have had the privilege of, speaking to the internal team that we've had here on a few occasions. Platypus Slayer, we've had Lionheart as a guest, we had Mr. V as a guest just recently. Hope you guys enjoyed that episode as well. And now we are talking to Shake. Now, Shake, is the full name like Shake 2020, or is it just Shake? What's the deal with the name?
It's whatever you prefer, honestly. Most of my friends just call me Shake, but if you want to be all formal about it, you can call me Shake 2020. My ego won't mind.
Okay, perfect. So tell us exactly, what is your kind of big role in the community? You've come up in a few of our episodes as we've discussed things around the community. You seem to be a sort of household name. A lot of your games get casted. You're involved with Free Food Party. You've done some tournament organizing. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. What exactly are you bringing to the table?
Yeah, so basically what I do is I'm the face and the mouth of Free Food Party.
Okay.
So, Free Food Party is an organization that was created by me, Bronchi, Crispy K, formerly Morlison, and Caverna TV. We started off in Widgie's voice chat, actually, in his Discord server.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided for ourselves, because we were just it came because I met Crispy on a ranked game when I was 1300 and he was 1300, if I'm not mistaken.
Nice.
And I've seen him in back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen him in a YouTube video of Widgie, so he was already a celebrity because he was a friend of Widgie. That's the guy with the videos.
Yeah.
And he was nice to me after I beat him with a double racks Brit Musk Rush, which I did very great scythe-like wise for 2,000 games in a row. And he invited me over to Discord, and I didn't even know what that was at the time because I actually had a social life before I got married. So and then I accepted, and a friendship grew from there. And so the five of us opened up a Free Food Party, and with the goal to acquire new players or get old returning players to come back to the game and coach them and help them the way that we were coached and helped, me specifically by Crab God and Robrod and those kind of players. So that's what I wanted to give back to the community. And as for the organizations of tournaments, we've hosted a couple of Beat the Boss tournaments. We've recently hosted a Revolve tournament. Credits to Slow Peach for donating the prize pool as well. And I think we've hosted a couple of dozen of shakedowns as well, which is like a SmackDown series where either me or other players take each other on in a best of 7 show match, which usually used to be $50, but my wife almost kicked me out, so it stopped being $50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez.
Yeah, after thousands of dollars poured into the game, she's like, no more.
Okay. Fair enough. I can't blame her on that one. So then, how did you get into, before we start talking more about Free Food Party and what all that is, and and just thoughts and feelings about the game so far, tell us about how you got into AoE 3. What was your start? Did you I think you're pretty old, right? You're 45, 50 years old now, so you must have played Legacy.
Fuck you. I'm actually 25.
Okay, gotcha.
So, yeah, for the viewers who didn't understand the sarcasm, I'm just gonna note that because, my dad's almost 50.
He's a young man.
Yeah. Well, how did I get into Age of Empires 3? That's a good question. So my aunt, actually, she used to play Age of Mythology. When I was a kid, I used to watch her a lot. She was really cool because we only have 11 years difference. She was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
So I used to watch her game, and it was so cool. And by the way, she's the coolest nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
She's what we call a legal drug dealer. She's a pharmacist.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So from then on, apparently my cousin used to play Age of Empires, my older cousin. So when I used to go over to sleep at my younger cousin who was my age, his house, we watched him play, and then we played the game. And then a couple of years later, I found it at like a toy store. And I was like 15, I think, and I played it a while offline. And then COVID hit. I stopped obviously that time, and COVID hit like 5 years after I stopped playing it, and I was like, got in a suggested YouTube video. I think it was like the LAN tournament or Samurai Revolution, either one of those channels.
Mm-hmm.
And I just watched it, and just ringed up my cousin, and I told him, "Listen, we got all day. We're just sitting at home doing nothing."
Might
And
as
I
well
wasn't
play.
married back then. Yeah, let's just play.
Mm-hmm.
And we played, and it turned out that I was better than my cousin and my friend that we played with. So I just, kept going and going and going, and now I'm chronically addicted.
Yeah, gotcha. And what's your elo right now?
I'm at my all-time high right now, and let me check that. I'm actually logged into the game. I am 2166 elo.
Okay, nice. All right, so with that being said, you said you were talking about Free Food Party as this kind of community to coach and to get people more involved in the game and lift them up. So can you tell me a little bit more about those efforts? So like I'm curious because it seems like, as far as I understand, I'm not a part of Free Food Party, but I'm familiar. I think you guys have an app. A lot of people like point to you guys doing the statistics stuff, and then you have a website where there's a sort of like I think a replay captcha, or maybe I'm wrong about that. You guys have a few other like resources out there. So can you tell me like how you're able to put that all together and exactly what kind of effort went into that?
Outsourcing.
Okay, gotcha.
Always use people smarter than you.
Okay, all right, cool.
So, honestly, the only things I know how to do on a PC is turn it on and load up Steam to press the Age of Empires or the Counter-Strike buttons.
Okay.
And I will get later into why I don't use control groups, and it's because of that reason. But anyways, so the website is a tribute to Caverna Bronchi Pratush, who is a very respected member in our group, and Kainisi.
Mm-hmm.
Now you all obviously, for those who follow the game, know Kainisi, great player, phenomenal guy. He's one of our main developers of the website. We used to have another guy called Jia, Taiwanese guy, really nice, and we have a couple of other people helping us out from here and there, like Paso Largo and all these people, Arano and AFK Norris, all nice people helping us with the website. But it's mainly those four that made it. So the website is comprised of a leaderboard. There's a versus, where you can look up your match history against other people with different civs as well. So you can look up, okay, how am I doing in auto mirrors in general? How am I doing in auto mirrors against Karen B? Or how am I doing against this player in this matchup or in this patch? How do the patches compare?
Mm-hmm.
We have a statistics section, like a browse section. Then we have the tools where we have deck builders, the replay parser, as you mentioned, tier lists, maps. We basically have everything. But on the main page, we have advertisements for like who is currently streaming right now, latest YouTube videos, etc., etc. There's also a donation bar on the top right. So if you're interested, please go help and donate.
Right.
It is something we work on quite a lot and not that cheap.
Yeah.
So, except for that, we also have an Age of Mythology section for the website, which is identical to the AoE III section. So it's basically the same, and by a click of the button, you just click on the Age of Mythology one, and you have exactly the same for Age of Mythology.
Now, because of all of this, so this is a kind of large, overarching question that just kind of popped into my head, and it seems like Free Food Party has become a sort of, or as you have desired for it to be, this group of yours, to be a sort of one-stop shop, right? So a player comes, they buy, let's say I buy Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition. I start getting involved in the multiplayer. I really enjoy the game. I start watching YouTube videos, and then, I say like, well, where can I get involved in the community? Where can I find guides? Where can I, there's no website or anything. And then somebody points me to Free Food Party. I get in there. I get to talk to people. I see the website, right? I get to use all these tools for free. I can maybe buy Julian K's guides, so on and so forth, right? So yeah. Do you think those were things that should have been provided for by the developers, that there should have been some resources there from the top or from the beginning of the game's life cycle, and that Free Food Party just kind of came in and felt the need to provide it because there was nothing there? Or did you feel like Free Food Party was going to be able to just do it better, and say like, okay, we are, forget No Idle TC, forget, whatever the Sunbros have going on, or Lion's Den, like Free Food Party can be something that's really special?
Well, we're getting into the spicy part because you just said my least favorite word.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll get into it now. We'll just do that now then, yeah.
Well, when you phrase it like that, right? Where the developer is supposed to provide us with all these details, I would be fair to them and say no.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why no, because there's a lot of other things they didn't do that I would have rather them do than, make like tier lists and stuff, right? And make their websites. Because they already have the official website. They're working on the game, they're working on balance. They've got other things on their mind.
Right.
Right. And I'm talking specifically about the developers. I'm not talking about the community management team, because holy, that woman has got something coming her way. If she's listening to this, I'd advise you not to have loved ones near you when you're gonna listen to this, because me and you are not friends.
Oh, okay.
I'll keep it PG-13 though. Don't worry.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, if you want to hear the more in-depth detail of how I hate her, it's either on the Sunbros or on Free Food Party where I'm gonna rant.
Well, we'll talk about it. Let's do this. Let's see. Yeah. Continue with your thought.
So, my thought honestly is this, right? We love the game, right? You love the game. That's why we're here talking together. You live in the United States. I live in Belgium right now, like completely different parts of the planet, but we're united because of this game.
Right.
And a lot of games and a lot of content creators, whether it be people that make websites, whether it's players that play professionally or semi-professionally, or content creators that do videos like yourself, like Lion, Mr. V, Wiggy, Samurai, Soldier, etc. We all do this not only to help the game, but we do it out of a passion of our own, right? We sink so many hours into this game because we enjoy it. It's our passion. So I think it's a given that eventually people, especially in the RTS community, right? Because I like to see RTS people as smarter than your average gamer, because it's a game that ultimately comes down to statistics and strategy, right? It's not something that is, as easy to learn. It's got a very steep learning curve. So you would anticipate that the people that actively play this game would also be more tech savvy, passionate about it, because the niche is so small. So as a community, we were happy to provide all of these things. Now, when it comes to other things, and I don't know if you want to get into that now or not.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. We're here.
Go ahead to stop me if you don't want to. Okay,
no,
let's do it.
Yeah.
The game developers themselves are not bad people, and I would air it here. I've had a couple of conversations with Talanis before. He's a guy that I can see that really cares. I hope so, because I've had limited conversations with him, and from what I've talked to him, he's a really nice guy. All right, and it feels like he's passionate about his job. It's just that, in my opinion, he's been fed not correct information, because with all due respect to Talanis, he isn't a high-level player. He's not someone who is in and around the upper echelons of ELO, and I'll also get to why high ELO is important in balanced decisions.
Okay.
Because I know that is a controversial topic in the Sunbros Discord specifically. So
okay, sure.
I'll try and rustle your feathers up with that one.
No, let's go. Yeah, let's do it.
But I want to talk about the most frustrating and important part. And there's two categories of people, and when I think about the second one, my blood already boils. There is the community management team, which is Ashley, and that woman has been robbing Microsoft of a salary for years now, and for the life of me, I cannot imagine an easier job in the world.
Okay.
She legitimately does nothing. A community manager is supposed to be the bridge between the development team and the owners of the game and the community. That is why you are a community manager. How come you're a community manager when the biggest players in the community do not know of your existence? How is that a thing? How is that possible?
Right.
right? So I think you all spoke, from what I've heard, you all spoke about what happened with me and my ban last time on the official forums.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, tell us
Riddle me
about that
this.
then. Tell me about that. What exactly went on? So the data patch happened, right? And
Yes.
then you blew up. Like wherever you could blow up, you blew up. And
Yes.
you know,
Now,
yeah.
no, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so and
Yes.
then that a lot of that was directed towards Ashley, right? Who is, in case all of you don't know, right? Ashley is the name of the community manager for Age of Empires as a series. Now, for us as Age of Empires 3 players, and I'll own that. I'll own that chick. I'm like, I didn't know that she existed. I am a content creator. I'm on the forums. No, I'm not on the forums. I'm on because the forums are a waste of time. I'm on Reddit, you know, YouTube. I'm on Twitch. I got feelers everywhere. I'm in some bros. I'm gonna join Free Food Party now because I have to. You know,
You have to.
and
You
so
better.
yeah, I have to. And so, you know, I have over 1,000 subscribers. I'm talking to Soldier, Lionheart, yourself, whoever, you know, and you would think that I would know who Ashley was,
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
would guarantee that more than 80% of our listeners have no idea who she is. So you ended up blowing up, and I remember there was an exchange between you and her, and then there was like a sort of demand for a response that you weren't receiving. So, you know, now I'm going to leave the floor to you to talk about that.
I'll get into that because you know what, my aunt, she's a freelancer, and what she does is HR consulting. So she goes to very big companies and she does, she oversees the workforce and whatnot. She's really good at her job, and because of her and good old fashioned nepotism, I managed to get a job in recruiting when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that in recruiting, you're supposed to call up your client and you're supposed to call up companies. You're supposed to see if you can make a connection and get a link. Because if you won't pick up the phone and try to communicate with the people that are in you know, in your specific niche to get, which in my case was people that didn't have a job and companies that needed people to do a job, I would get fired.
Right.
How on earth is the community manager in a position where she has a job when the community has no idea of her existence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is incredibly baffling to me. Now, I am man enough to own up to mistakes I've made. So, the balance patch in itself, it was underwhelming. I'm not gonna hold punches because the balance patch was underwhelming. Civs that needed nerfs didn't receive sufficient nerfs. Civs that needed buffs didn't receive sufficient buffs. And other civs that needed, you know, tweaks received tweaks. I'll give an example of a good thing. For example, let's just stay on the balance part because I want to get that out of the way because that is the least important problem here, in
Okay.
my opinion. Which
Okay.
is still a problem, obviously, because it's the gameplay itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to get to the quality of life changes that we were promised later on because I know that's a way more serious concern. So, if you look at balance itself, there are civs that are overperforming and underperforming. Now, you cannot look at the game in a linear form where you only look at ladder performances and statistics because that is a way to easily get lost in translation. Where I'll give an example of a player like myself, and then I'll give an example of a player like, for example, a good friend of mine that I have. That his name is Blackburn. He plays at around 1700. Great guy, Turkish guy, which means he streams often in the morning. Keeps me sane sometimes,
Okay.
on less busy days or on toilet breaks. So he streams a lot of random civs and a lot of civs that he doesn't really know, right? So he's gonna get a game of Italy and he doesn't even know what an architect cost is, right? So he doesn't even know the cost of the unit. And if he's gonna lose a game with Italy, the statistic of him losing the game with Italy is going to be the same statistic of me winning a game with Sweden, where I know the exact train time of every single unit in the civ, right?
Okay.
So you have this disparity between, yes, statistics are good and there's somewhat of a measure, but they're not really good. The best way to scope the balance of a civ is to get very good um very good representatives of every single branch of the game. So you have, for example, top 3D players, top team players, top 1v1 supremacy players, Now, Empire Wars, we don't really have a lot of players that play it. So let's say it grows in the future, and we will have Empire Wars players. Sure, include them in it as well. And you need to have a sit down with the balance team. You need to have these players on board and active, and you need to come to a consensus. So I don't want to see ego fights in that sort of scenario, where, for example, we have Revnak, who we all love to hate, and I will get into that later on because I think that he deserves a call out for what is happening, and I think that I know that I'm not that kind of guy, but if you can spare me 5 minutes at the end of this podcast so I can vent about my specific frustration with him and the whole of House of Trading posts.
Okay. I mean, I try to avoid it with Lionheart, but since you've said it, I'm like, all right, well, cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, no, this is guys, this is not Sun Bros. This is completely shake venting, and I will get to it. Why? Because it's a social issue. It's not an issue of in-game. Because
but
if we're being honest, as an organization, I think that House of Trading Post, the idea is not a bad idea at all. I encourage as many people to open as many communities as possible and involve as many people as possible. And I don't think that Revnak has even done a bad job of including players. But we'll get into that at the end.
Yeah.
All right?
Okay.
The balance itself, if we're looking at it at hand, you need to look at tournaments, for example. So we had a tournament hosted by ESOC, which was a tournament of only, RE and vanilla civs, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And certain civs overperformed and certain civs underperformed. Now, sadly, they decided to do a non-DLC, non-DE tourney, so we couldn't really measure up all the civilizations. But at least with these civilizations, we kind of had a scope, right? Now, in my belief, and I'm not a player that's always been good at this game, right? I'm a player that has gone through most of the stages of Elo in this game, and I've grown gradually with time. 4 years ago, I was 1300. A year ago, I didn't even hit 2K yet. And now I'm ranked 14. I was ranked 13 on the ladder. So it's a gradual growth. So I've had to learn and experience every single Elo myself. My knowledge of the game wasn't even close to the knowledge of the game I have nowadays when I was lower Elo. Because I wasn't looking at things from a scope of, well, maybe I'm making a mistake. Maybe my strats are one-sided. Maybe my adaptability isn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm at a level where I consistently play against the best of the best, and I consistently get coached or compare myself with other players my level or higher, I realize, and also consistently play more and more civs. I play almost every single civ in the game at this point. I can see and I can really scope and measure civs against each other. Things like tempo, things like eco, things like military tempo, XP curve, etc., etc. These are all things that you need to know at the highest of levels to be able to contribute to balance. And that's a conversation that I had about with Talanis, for example, because these are things that if you don't handle at the higher elos, they will trickle down to the lower elos, and you block people in these lower elos of the potential to eventually reaching higher elo with mechanical skill, which at the end of the day is what you want from people in an RTS game. You want people to be able to achieve higher elo by two things: either incredible and impeccable strategy, or by incredible mechanics.
Yeah.
And the top of the top and the creme de la creme are going to be both. For example, Karen B, in my opinion, and I know I'm going to get a lot of hate for it, he's a great player.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care that he only plays auto. If you've seen this guy micro, he has the micro of someone that has never smelled 1,000 elo. And you want to tell me this guy was like rank 10 on the ladder? That is impressive.
Yeah, I can see that.
It doesn't matter how good the civ that he plays is. He consistently plays against the best players in the game. There isn't a single player in the game that hasn't lost to Karen B. I think that is an achievement, rather than something that you should look at his civ.
So to summarize this, right? So, for all those listening, and I'm going to ask, is that the issue then is that, let's say Shake is playing Sweden at a very, very high level, right? And so, as you said, I know the train times of every single unit, and I'm competing against other players who also know their civs as intensely as I know Sweden. And so when you get in those tournament environments or those 1v1 environments, let's just say 1v1 for now, right? When you get into those environments, those are like laboratory tests of like
Yeah.
almost near, I mean, obviously there's a human element, right? You make mistakes, other players make mistakes, but for the most part, what you're seeing is the even playing field, and what is happening is the strategy and the mechanical test between the two players. And what happens is that the balance comes in that it needs to just be the strategy and the mechanical rather than the civs being outmatched. And the best way to do that is the high elo. But your issue though is that there is no working group that exists through a community manager, right? Like if Ashley was in the room saying, we're going to create a group of the top players and bring them in, and all of you are going to be able to talk to developers when they ask questions, and that way we'll arrange things so that way we can test for balance, and that just doesn't exist. And that's really where you're having some issue. Is that correct, or am I not understanding that?
It is partially correct.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. Because I believe that at the end of the day, when you look at an organization like FIFA, for example, I know
Mm-hmm.
they have their own corruption stuff. I don't know how knowledgeable Americans are in it, so let's take the NBA for example.
Okay.
A lot of people that, a lot of players that retire, they either go into the coaching staff or they go into, you know, the commissioner's team, the front office of the NBA itself, the NBPA, etc. And they help the commissioner and other NBA people make decisions for the future, right? And why is that? It's because these people have lived through the NBA, through actually playing it.
Right.
They're the best of the best. They're the
Right.
most knowledgeable. They're going to know how to run all the plays. They're going to know what it feels like to actually be there and do it, right? And I don't think it's per se the community manager that is, no, actually she is. I'm taking that back. She's responsible for this. You're completely right. She's awful at her job. She's just awful at her job, and I'll explain why. Because the developer's job is supposed to be focusing purely on the development of the game. Their job is not to bring together community players to ask them questions. Their job is to sit on the goddamn PC and make the game function properly and balance properly. It's the community manager's job to bring these players in contact
Right.
with the development
Right.
team.
Right. Exactly. Okay.
That's what you expect from these people. Again, as a recruiter, I'm not going to expect the technician that I managed to get him a job. I'm not going to expect him to later on recruit more people to the job or to be in contact with his boss for things like pay raise, because that's my job. That's what I managed to get for him.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I need to do. And she's solely responsible for this. She is solely responsible for us not having any conversation with it. And that makes me like Talanis even more, because face it, does he listen to people? Not all too often. But you know what? At least he makes the effort to reach out to us when it's completely not even in the description of his job.
Yeah.
It's not what he's supposed to do. It's he doesn't get paid for this.
Mm-hmm.
Can you imagine doing stuff for your job that you're completely not paid to do just purely out of passion? There's not a lot of people in the world that do that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. No, I totally get it.
And that's a problem in our game. And to get balance out of the way, I think that the people that have been in contact with Talana so far, and the players that I'm talking about know who they are, they have done a very poor job of advising him. And they have done a job of people that are biased towards their own civilizations, towards their own agendas in the game, that want to see their stuff buffed, and that honestly either have no knowledge of what is going on in the game, or they just know, but they want to be biased and want to get their stuff buffed.
Yeah.
Which I find despicable, because if you're put in a position of power and you abuse it, then then the downfall of balance of the game that you love is eventually on you. And it's not going to be a very fun game if you're the only one playing it in the end.
Yeah. This is very true. Now, you mentioned the quality of life, so that covers the balance, right? So we're not coordinating with our high level players to really kind of really iron out any of the balance issues. And so we're starting to see this kind of wheel spinning, right, of like this back and forth of not just these small tweaks to civs. This isn't to say that the balance is like awful, but it's really frustrating to find like this continued glaring issues when there is no working group of getting connected with the developers, with the high elo players. But then you did mention the quality of life stuff. So I wanted to give you the time to go ahead, and you said that was even more egregious in your opinion than the balance issues that we were promised, So go ahead and talk about that for me.
I'll tell you why. And that's the thing that I take personally. I'm a person that stands by what he says. I'm a person that I've, pun intended, I've got integrity. So when I say I'm gonna do something, I mean it.
Okay.
Even though I know sometimes it's gonna be tough and it's gonna be rough going and it's not gonna be easy to fulfill the things I promised, you promise, you do. End of story. That's it. That's how the world works. If you want to gain any sort of respect from your peers, from people at work, from your wife, your husband, whoever it may be, you do what you promise to do. And quality of life changes were promised. Balance is a human issue. You can take advice from the wrong people. You can have your opinions that some people won't agree with. But the quality of life changes were not a balance issue. They were not an issue that had different opinions lying around on them of what to do. No, quality of life changes were the minimum of things that the developers had to provide after an 8-month long drought in patches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is why I feel like it's another stab in the back to us, the community, who are eventually where your product is going to end up. We're the consumer. We're the whole reason why you have this comfortable office job as a developer of a video game. And I'm not talking to the employers themselves only, employees. Sorry, I'm talking to the whole development team in that regard. And on that aspect, I'm not going to blame Ashley. It's the only thing that she's going to escape blame for. I'm talking to the developers straight, because whether it be the manager in the development team or the developers themselves, you cannot tell me that it took you 8 months to put in some quality of life changes into the next patch, even though you knew that balance-wise it wasn't going to be a significant one, and even though you knew you were going to delay the DLCs that were promised to us, which by the way is a shame. And I hear people saying, "Oh no, I understand because Age of Mythology came out." Well, the last patch dropped months before Age of Mythology came out, a very long time before. And why is it so tough for you to designate 1 or 2 developers just to do these quality of life changes throughout that time? You want to tell me there is that small, eeny-weeny, tiny bit of like 5 developers for the entire Age series? That's unacceptable.
Yeah.
And that isn't realistic.
Right.
That's not true. I don't buy it.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that a game that has 6,500 active ladder players, which are, by the way, the vast minority of the actual players of the game. This game is actually a thriving game, contrary to popular belief that people are thinking the game is dying. No, the competitive scene is dying, and we'll get into that later. But the game itself, as a video game, is thriving. It's actually going up.
So
it's being bought more and more.
So really quick though, I want to ask about that, the quality of life still. So, because I firmly agree with you, right? I think it's been 9 months. It was 9 months really between patches. Like you said, they couldn't ask one person to do literally anything, right? I'm not asking for a laundry list of items. We're at just a couple of things to say that you actually did quality of life, and they didn't do it. So what were the things that you were, I don't know, hoping, expecting to see that were added to the game that just haven't been added to the game? And like when you say quality of life and they failed in this regard and they didn't deliver what was promised, what are you conjuring in your mind as to what that would be?
For me personally, I'll take the game UI. I think the game UI is absolutely atrocious.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
When it can't be that the old version of the game had a way better UI than the current version of the game. I cannot see who's online. The fun facts that they used to have over there was so fun, for the casual player, and we all know the vast majority of this game's players are casual players, right?
Right.
The fun facts on the top right, the list of players. I think that they should have also, with these specific quality of life changes for right now, they could have added back ranks like they did it before, except for this soulless, boring elo system, as if we were all chess players, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It was cool to be able to level up, right?
Mm-hmm.
All these changes are not that hard to acquire, knowing that they were all in the former version of the game. right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
those are the minor quality of life changes that at least I would have wanted to have the game look aesthetically more pleasing, because no one will ever just sit and marvel in, at the screen while they're loading to find a game in quick search, because there's nothing to look at. There's nothing to scroll through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is a problem for
That's the
me.
big one, the UI. The UI is
For
the
me,
yeah.
for me specifically, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. And so it is kind of perplexing because it's kind of like and I understand your frustration, Shake, because it's kind of like a double-edged sword. And it's not just with this patch, right? It starts to compound with all the other patches and lack of engagement, right? Because you're saying every single patch decision, all the balancing decisions, they're not engaging with the actual pro players that would know, that have lived it, that are doing it, right? That understand the game. They're not engaging with us. They're not letting us speak in on the balance issues. And then yet at the same time, now they're just patching things, and then at the same time they're not providing any sort of quality of life updates. So exactly what are you doing? Because are you just sitting around in a room deciding, oh well, we're gonna change the cost. What is the one that they went? Oh, like for you, what's personal to you, the Haka pellets, right? Every other patch, it's something changing the Haka pellets. And you're like, okay, so obviously you guys are sitting around, you don't know what you want to do, you're just changing the Haka pellets over and over again, and nothing is changing. Like, nobody's engaging with the community. And apparently we have a community manager in Ashley who is just simply just missing in action. Like, she is just not around at all.
She's AWOL.
She's AWOL.
She's
yeah.
a POW. She's a POW since the beginning of the game.
Well, do you think that's a lot of people blame the whole Age of Empires 2 thing, right? So they say
no, not at all.
Okay.
No, I completely disagree.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why I disagree. Because us as a community, we also have to realize one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see Age of Empires 2 as the community specifically, right? The game's dog shit. Sorry for my language. I hope you don't get demonetized for me saying that. But the community is what brought the game back together and alive. AoE 2, I don't know if you remember it. I don't know how long it was ago, but it was a while ago. Basically, the community decided to revive the game by itself. So they went the extra length, they went the extra effort, they started uploading videos, started forming communities, etc. And they kind of forced the developers' hand into, reviving the game, because they did it themselves as advertising-wise, which is kind of what we try to do with the Free Food Party and with the Sun Bros and ESOC and all these organizations.
Right.
So we cannot blame the developers' attention on AoE 2 because the community earned it, even though the game looks incredibly disgusting if you compare it to AoE 3, at least aesthetically, which, again, the average RTS player is a casual player, and aesthetics are a thing that matter in the game.
Mm-hmm.
But when you talk about a project when you have a project at work, and you have a big project and 3 other small projects, okay? I know damn well that your boss is going to sit on your case if you don't complete your small project, because they are vital as well. They're not the big project, but they're small projects that need to be done. And if you have some kind of standing in your world, you're going to outsource it to someone with less experience or less status at work, and he's going to get the job done. But someone's going to get the job done at work.
Right.
The job's going to be done. It's not going to be laying around there and doing nothing. Someone's going to tend to that smaller project. And with all due respect, AoE 3 isn't even a small project at this point. We almost have the same amount of players as AoE 4. AoE 2 is just a behemoth. And if you're looking at the Steam charts, give it a month and Age of Mythology Retold is going to be less worth than AoE 3.
It already is. It already is.
It already is. It's plummeting. The hype's dead. So you want to tell me Age of Mythology had, 5 balance patches since it came out, and we got one in 8 months? For a game that's less famous than ours, less played than ours, less used than ours, less profitable than ours, because he's coming, we got skins all the time. Hell, I don't mind. Why do you not charge people for Explorer skins?
Mm-hmm.
Charge people for Explorer skins instead of letting them unlock it. I can help them out on the business aspect if they want. Like,
but hold on.
You want
let me ask
this
you
game
this.
to become profitable? I'll help you.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think that is, though? Because you're talking about our numbers, and you're saying that, we're still a significant project. We're here. We're we have all these communities that exist, right? Free Food Party is doing all this work. Why do you think that is, that we're just simply not getting any sort of attention?
Honest or political truth?
I want the political one. I want
No,
the political
the
one.
honest one doesn't. The honest one doesn't involve swear words. It just involves the hard, honest truth.
Okay.
Yeah, I won. It was kind of a rhetorical question. Goddamn. The honest truth is that the game's time period is situated in a period that is kind of sensitive historically. Right now, if you're looking at the social standing of our world. Now, I'm not saying if that's a correct or incorrect thing, because everyone's free to their own political views and their own social views, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that Microsoft might not want to invest as much money in as the game of Knights in Shining Armor, as compared to the game that has plantations.
Yeah,
and that's my theory for it, at least.
maybe. Yeah, I mean, we won't know for sure, but I just wanted to get your thoughts on that, and this all ties back to, not all ties back to, but all of this conversation makes me think of all of your efforts that you've done with tournaments, because something that I've talked a lot about in other podcasts, God, man, with Lionheart, with Mr. V, and I've talked about it with Platt plenty of times. We've talked about quality of life in some earlier episodes. And if you guys have not heard those episodes, this is all in a playlist. You can feel free to go back and listen to those. One of the things that I've mentioned a lot of is the idea that, to be excluded from the Red Bull tournament and to not have, World's Edge, plug into what we're doing, right? They've never come alongside ESOC. They never come along Free Food Party. They never come alongside some bros. And all of us are doing tournaments. You know what I mean? All of us are showcasing tournaments on Twitch. We're streaming. We get sponsorships. It's a whole thing, right? And like you're saying that you were giving prize pool money to try to get some big names in there to like make it actually interesting to really fight for it. Why isn't the giant company, going to you and saying, hey, Shake, like we see that you're doing the Shakedown event again and everybody's really excited about it this year. We think that we're going to give you $250 to add to the prize pool. So that way you can get some extra people in there. And then we'll also, we'll advertise it on the website and all that other kinds of stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you're running these tournaments, and that's been your big thing in the community, right? Is to organize and to sponsor tournaments. That's what you've done. And I don't think ever that they've contacted you to really push those tournaments. And but tournaments, like, and as we were saying before, is that tournaments are supposed to be two things, right? They're supposed to be a source of entertainment for the player base, but also they're a way for us to kind of get an idea of balance, perhaps, and also to learn who the big names are. It's a way for all of us to connect. It's really good advertisement outside of the game, right? Because when people say
it's our playoffs,
right, exactly, it's our playoffs. Yeah, exactly. So, what is that going to look like going forward for you? And how do you feel about that?
So, for me personally, I got banned from Twitch. I won't get into the reasons except for saying that Spanky, God knows what you did. And so God knows what you did as well, Revnak. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
So streaming on Twitch is not going to happen anymore.
Okay.
But we're going to transition to YouTube, and we're going to continue hosting events on YouTube. I think as a community, we have to look at ourselves, because this is where I'm going to give critics to us as a community. We have to be able to look at ourselves and tell ourselves the honest hard truth is that as a community, a lot of us that are actively engaged in Discord and Twitch now, the ones that I know who I'm talking to, they will get it. And the ones, if you don't understand what I'm saying or talking about, then this is not directed at you. A lot of people are just disgusting in our community.
Okay.
Whether it is discriminatory, whether it is and I'm not talking about like ethnically or racially, I'm just talking silly school children yard
yeah, we're just saying nasty things on the internet,
just
what I mean?
nasty people. But I'm not talking about the saying, I'm talking about the acting.
Yeah.
There is a humongous bridge between the old guard and the new guard of the game.
Okay,
A humongous bridge.
but pause there. Pause there. I want to talk about that. This is something that I brought up a few times. In that, when I've asked people about ESOC, right? So Mr. V and I talked about this quite extensively because he did casting for ESOC, and I was like, ESOC I feel is kind of dead, right? That the old, not dead in the sense of like it's gone, but rather that they used to be the sort of one-stop shop, right? Where the old guard, what you're talking about, those old school professional players, everybody had access to them. You had the tournaments. They were the heartbeat of the community, right? And then now that is gone, and everything has sort of subdivided out. And so, what do you think has been the impact of that on the community? Do you feel as if, like, are you saying that that has led to a very negative impact where people have just been more nasty and influential in their various corners, or do you think it's been good?
I'll tell you what is going on in my opinion. The old guard of the game is extremely elitist in its way of thinking and the way that they act. And I'll give myself as an example for this. I was lucky to meet a couple of very nice people along my way of increasing in elo and becoming a better player and overall integrating into the community. But I have had way more negative pushback and counter from people that I've always looked up to. I was just like watching YouTube or catching a Twitch stream here and there, and all of a sudden I'm in a position where I play these players, and I'm like, I'm nerdgasming. I'm starstruck. I'm like, wow, this guy. Like, I used to watch his videos. I learned so many builds from him, and I beat him. And at the end of the game, I'm like, GG, well played, man. And he's like, you're a noob. You shouldn't even won this game. And it's supposed to be meant funny in the eyes of a lot of people, but this community has become so toxic and cringy, in the way that, like, if you see this person in real life and he'd say something like that, you'd smack him in the face and he'd never ever say it again. Right. But it's allowed in our community because the edge lords are people that are worshipped in some sense, and I don't want to call out any names, but it's like there's an incredible dissonance. It's like it feels like, like there's blue blood in this game, and then there's the rest that aren't blue blood. And I love Kaiser Klein. I'll give an example of Kaiser Klein though, because Kaiser is a phenomenal player, one of the all-time greats. But nowadays he hops on the game, he doesn't stop moaning. He doesn't stop moaning for a single second. I watch his streams on mute because I can't stop listen. I can't listen to him moan all the time, right? Yeah. And the worst part about it is that you don't see his chat saying, dude, stop complaining, we all love you, but this is clearly a you problem right now. Everyone is like bowing to him and is like, no, you're right, my lord Kaiser, you're right, the game is such an awful state. Well, this is
what we talk about, right? Is that like you and I, like, I'm not gonna name names, but you and I will, in Discord, you and I will go back and forth, right? And you and I know that that's just a joke, right? Like, I'm not, what I'm saying is not serious, what you're saying is not serious, and it's fine. But then you'll have somebody, and again, I'm not going to name names, somebody will show up and say like, hey, you need to be more respectful to high elo, like, he's a high elo player, like, have some more respect or whatever. And I'm like, what is me being nice to Shake, like, agreeing with all of his opinions and like bowing down to him and saying, ooh, Lord Shake, or ooh, Lord Kaiser Klein, gonna give me elo? Well, sure. I mean, okay, like, that's sure. But people really think like there's a sort of deference that's given of like, because you're a high elo person, like, I have to sit down and shut up, and like everything you say is correct. And then therefore, if they're toxic,
so weird.
If they're toxic, right? And then that may be the case on balance. Like if you tell me like, hey man, like, Haka pellets aren't broken, I'm gonna be like, okay, like, Shake's opinion on this is gonna be more accurate than mine. So I'm gonna say, sure, like, I can agree that maybe Haka pellets aren't broken. However, I still have this concern, But the thing is that
Packet pellets are broken, by the way.
they
just saying
are,
it now.
and so, but
Yeah.
but as an example, but the thing is that if you come around and you say like this game is actually awful and it's dog water and like I hate these people and blah 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 blah, I have to, you know, turn on my brain for a second and say, wait a second, no, I actually enjoy the game, and no, like we have some good people here, and I don't agree with Shake, but because people are high elo, they are like, oh, like how Kaiser Klein is, right? That they just immediately agree because of, I don't know what it is exactly that causes that, but there's a sort of like strange.
Oh, there's a lot of factors.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, we don't need to get into
Either
the psychology of it too much, I don't think.
yeah, I know. I was a go in.
But then, so that's the old guard. But what do you? So the old guard was this like kind of elitist cast that kind of, you know, was very rigid. But then, like, who's the new guard, and are they any better?
I mean, no, because when you're part of the old guard, and you see someone that actually has like a lot of potential, like not me, I was never supposed to be the elo that I'm at, right?
Yeah.
Because mechanically I wasn't all that good as other up and coming players. Like I'll give an example. A player like Ungers, for example, which in my opinion is like a horrible human being. Like he's such a despicable guy. Like he's so disgusting, right? And I don't care about name calling anymore. Actually, I just gave up. So
Okay.
second part of this spot.
All right, fine.
Name calling.
That's fine.
I don't care. I'm not catching any prisoners anymore. He's just a despicable guy because I have been nothing but nice to him all the time. And I'll give this example, right? Because he's a young kid. He's like, what, 19 or something? I don't know. And I've always been so nice to him. And every time he played, I'm like, yeah, let's go Ungers. You can do it, man. And like when I was 1500 and watching him play. And then I play him and he never, ever gave me a positive word. And he was always like, you're so shit. You're so bad. When I lose to him, like,
Oh my
I feel
God.
so bad. Damn. Yeah, and he would go on other Twitch chats and be like, oh my God, what's wrong with me today? I lost to Shake. Holy shit, you know? And you look at it and you're like, why are you acting like these people that are like pieces of shit and old guard? It's because, well, when these old guard players see players that have the potential to be as good as they were before, they're gonna recruit them to kind of like their clique, right? And on one end, they can't stop moaning and complaining that people aren't improving at the game and the quality of the game is going down player-wise. And on the other hand, they're not doing anything actively to help new players improve at the game.
Yeah.
Right? And that is a serious issue. And this is something that, while mechanically inferior to the old guard, I admit, players like H2O, Bonang, I Am Grunt, Mido, Kaiser Klein, these players, I don't know if we're ever going to see a player like that again. And like, I love Julian, but he's not near them in their prime. Like, hell, I was even having an argument if Julian is even at the level of prime I Am Turk, and I Am Turk never won anything notable. These guys are actually stand-up guys. Julian is one of the nicest guys you will know in this game. He actively helps people all the time. Even before he had his guide, he used to always help people out. He used to always do coaching, be nice to everyone. I've never heard anyone have any issues with Julian, for example. Like, he's just an upstanding, nice guy. And that is the very big difference in the old and the new guard. I would put myself in the new guard because A, my elo, and B, my positioning in the community. I will do everything I can to help out new players, to help out people who want to learn new civs. I will spend hours and hours coaching people and talking about balance and whatnot. But I never received that.
Yeah.
And that is a very healthy way. And that is, again, why the community is growing. Free Food Party has almost 1,500 members right now.
Jeez.
And we opened like 2 years ago.
Nice.
For such a small community.
Right.
And it's because we just put in the effort and we're actually nice to people. And we're not assholes when people ask questions. Like, we don't act like pretentious, you know what's private parts male. You know?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. So
we just,
yeah. And
that's a very big issue in the game. It is humongous, and it's very, very wide, very often overlooked issue as well. By the way.
So then, and so how are we bridging that gap? Is it just that the old guard just had to go away, and then Free Food Party had to come along with its more, with its higher elo players that are just better people, that are just nicer people, to just kind of come along and bridge the gap between the low and mid elo and the high elo players? Because as you were saying that there was an elitist problem, you felt like with the old guard, the new guard has come in, you guys are putting together tournaments, you guys are putting out websites, guides, and you're trying to reach out. And so really it just took a new generation to come in, or are we still having an issue with kind of building a bridge across between the player communities?
I mean, you're right on one hand as to where, you know, the old has to die for the new to be reborn, right? In that kind of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but on the other end, I don't see what's stopping the old guard of just not being assholes.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's that simple. And yes, maybe future players are not going to be as mechanically adept as older players were. By the way, I think new generation players are strategically way more inept and way better than the old players were. I might note, micro doesn't decide every single game you play, because, you know, if that was the case, Karen B would be no higher than a fancy 1000 in Elo. But yeah, it's something that we are actively working on. And not only Free Food Party, you guys are doing an amazing job at it. You've got a huge community that is widely loved and accepted in the community as well, in the broader AoE 3 community, that is. And look, the game is growing.
Right.
Statistically, numbers wise, we are gaining more and more players, whether it be casual or on the ladder. It's just the higher elos that are just not going up, because, again, as I said, the dissonance between the higher levels of players that used to be very good at the game and the modern day players. And hopefully one day, I'm not going to include everyone in there, of course, because Kaiser, as an example, he was always very nice. I have a friend, Batuhan.
Yep.
He has coached Batuhan after I asked him to coach him, and like, he does his stuff. But there's a lot of other players that are very elitistic and just mean, like, just plain mean. I know I don't want to name a name, but he knows who he is. It's a guy that is widely loved in the community, actually, for his more gimmicky builds, and he's a very good player. But when I was up and coming, he wouldn't stop creating Smurf accounts just to, you know, hamper me on my way up on the ladder, just to snipe me and then tell everyone on his stream how bad of a player I am.
Yeah, come on. I mean,
and that is a thing that you just don't want to have in a community, right?
right.
And the problem with our community is that it isn't frowned upon. And that is the thing that we have to change as a community, because we're not going to grow. We're not going to become AoE 2 if that mentality sticks.
Yeah.
And it is sticking right now. And that is a huge problem that we have.
Yeah. I firmly agree that you know, our behaviors, even on an individual level, they have a significant impact upon the community. You know, people will say, you know, even people in Sunbros where we have a strict no Smurf policy, and then they'll justify it. Well, I just want to test out the Civ and this, that, and the other. It's like, just then test out the Civ. Now, granted, we probably should have like an unranked queue, you know, for players that want to hop on and, you know, some sort of unranked something, you know, for 1v1 so you can test out your Civs. But yeah, smurfing and all that other kinds of stuff, stream sniping, and it's just, like you said, it has a huge impact on the community. And, you know, and it makes me wonder that if maybe bridging the gap would look like, you know, we need to grow our pro player base. You know, we don't have enough, you know, 2K Elo players. And now I know that maybe some pro players are, you know, concerned about that. They're like, well, we don't want to dilute the pool. But really what I'm saying is that, you know, I think you should adopt a player. You know, like you said that you coach a lot, so I'm not talking specifically to you. But if you have like rising star up and coming players that are out there that show a lot of promise, I don't understand why people from those higher echelons are not showing up and saying, hey, like, I really want to coach you. I want to create video series and Twitch streams where I'm coaching you. And then that way you can grow into another pro player that so therefore we have an additional person, right, that is able to speak to the community, to get connected, who's a nice person, right? So the nice guys outnumber the bad guys, right? But then also at the same time, we're creating more content to be put out there. And then, you know, tournaments can be, like you're saying, like this ties back to the tournament thing, right? Where tournaments can be used to kind of find out who is, you know, really promising. Like I think of quite a few Sunbros players that are out there that I think, you know, are in that 1700 Elo range that very easily could be the 1900 2K Elo if we weren't so, you know, rigid, right? If people actually wanted to, you know, give their time up to like make this happen, if they cared, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I completely with you. I completely agree with you in that regard. It's something that as a community we have to get together and realize that we have to work on. And honestly, the people that want to be left out of it and not participate in it are not people that we should take seriously when it comes to, reaping the benefits of our community at the end of the day.
Yeah.
If you see that you're gonna grow a community and you've got a player, I'll give an example. Like shit, I'll give myself some praise. Like me, I should be included more, in like a featured video, for example, of someone that I've coached, right? Rather than a player from the old guard that hasn't really done anything for him in return. And I'm not saying this as a oh now you owe me thing, but it's like no, you and I'm saying me because I just didn't want to name any names or offend anyone or leave anyone out, by the way.
Yeah.
That because there are a lot of players that are doing a phenomenal job for the community, from the new guard at least.
Yeah.
But and you want to feature them to kind of give them that respect and show them, hey, look, you did this for me, I want to do this for you now. And that's how you build a community at the end of the day. That's how you show appreciation to each other, and that's how you build friendships online. I have coached a lot of players. um Batuhan is a player that I used to coach a lot. Lop and me are around the same skill level nowadays, but he's a player that I used to coach as well. Um, there's other players now. Lop is just a great player. I'm not coaching Lop. Like, we give each other tips from now and then, even though I'm still better than him. Don't tell him that. But it's still it's these are all players that I've coached. Testo Burn is someone that I'm coaching now with Crab God together. Like, I've been coached by Robrot, for example, or by Diaruga. I have been coached for Diaruga this one time, and it helped me phenomenally. Like, one coaching session with the guy made me climb 200 elo in the next month because everything he said just makes sense.
Yeah. Nice.
And if we can integrate that into the community, we will grow much more as a community. And people underestimate it. They just wanna, be douchebags, be elitist,
But you're
and
saying
just
that,
get praised.
but what you're saying is that Free Food Party has become a space that is not the case, right? That
Yes,
you guys have the
definitely.
tournaments have been very successful.
Yes,
And you have the sites and everything else, and it seems like everybody there, in terms of like the chatting and the streaming that goes on within the Discord, has actually been very, very, very positive and quite
it's very
healthy.
lively.
Yeah, lively
Yeah,
is a good
yeah.
word for it. Yeah, you guys have a good thing going on. But I want to relate this back to Revnak now, because you're
Mm.
talking about, that kind of old guard, the elitists, the people who kind of poison the well for everybody else. And what is it exactly about Revnak and HOTP that kind of, I don't know, flies in the face of the things that we're talking about, of like people that are about organizing and developing the community further?
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest here, first of all, because I ideally we want to live in a world where we pick sides and we want to be objective, but in human nature, our bias stops us from doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So the big fight here is, on one side you've got Lion and Esok, and on the other side you've got Revnak, right?
Sure.
I'll get into the Revnak thing, but I'll look at Esok and Lion. I think both are doing a very good job of progressing forward and fixing mistakes that they had in the past. So am I. I'm a human being. We all do. I had my hissy fits in the past as well.
Yeah.
Um, but discrimination on the people that work with ESOC. I'm not talking about the people that work for ESOC, aka Josh or um, Gigs, even though they also have things to work on. It's still there. It's still the elitists are favored, and not everyone is really involved but then again, fair play, it's their organization, right? I'm not going to critic it all too much, but I would like to see Lion also stop with the games, because like he kind of, it's like he's 50-50 as well. Half the community hates him, half the community loves him, and he hates half the community and then loves half the community. And I'm saying this to him because I'm in the same boat, and I would rather not be in that boat. You know my bias stops me from seeing where I'm wrong or right, and I'm telling him this because I see this in myself. And I really like the dude as a human being, and that's
Yeah.
more important to me, because at this stage in my AoE 3 career, like, it's not just people I play online games with. It's like I have more contact with them than my IRL friends almost.
You
Right?
feel like you feel like you just want to put down the internet drama. That's what you're saying. You're like,
Yeah,
we can just let it
in
go.
some cases.
Okay.
In some cases, let me reiterate that because this is important. I'll get into the Revnak stuff. First of all, people need to realize that Revnak is not a person that is mentally healthy.
Hmm.
He isn't a mentally stable person. Um, and that is not used to knock him. I'm not using this as something that is because I like to call myself not mentally stable often, but I'm talking seriously right now about Revnak. This guy is you sometimes when you look at a person and you're not sure when they're trolling or when they're being serious, assume that something's not right upstairs. Okay, really do, because most of the time you're going to be right. When someone repeats a thing over and over and over and over again and screams wolf over and over again while consistently being proven to be someone who is doing all the things that he accuses people of doing to him, and I will get into the racist example for later on, then you need to understand that there is something wrong fundamentally with this person. It's no wonder that every single person that has ever been related or affiliated to Revnak in this game, bar the group of neo-Nazis that he has kept close to him, are no longer in contact or friends with him. Him and Moonshine used to be inseparable, for example. They used to be the best of friends.
Yeah.
Now Moonshine has not a small history of doing not the greatest stuff either in the game, but he's repenting and he's becoming a really nice guy. And even though I don't like his very German attitude and rhetoric a lot of the times with his negativity, I love Germans, by the way. He's still a guy that is, fixing himself and bettering himself and including more in the community and hanging out more with people and, doing stuff in the community.
Unless you like Revnak, because he hates Revnak.
Yes, but there is a reason, and I will get to the reason why people hate him so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not regular gamer beef that people have with him. People hate him.
Yeah, like personally.
And I will give my example. He has a friend called Phoenix.
Oh yeah.
People used to formerly know him as Senor Boo or Meramix on the ladder. He shares about 12 accounts with that guy. So they account share on the ladder.
Yeah.
Which is, first of all, gaming wise, it's incredibly unethical and unmoral to account share with, right?
Right.
Because you never know when you're playing against him or him. You just never know. Now, I am going to put a disclaimer. I'm not going to get into the political aspect of this, right? Because my political beliefs are mine and another person's political beliefs are his beliefs. I have friends that completely differ from me politically, and I'm not going to say what side I'm on, but you could assume later on. And we get along fine every single day because it stays at that. You have your political beliefs and I have mine. But when I'm going to play a game against someone that draws swastikas, for those who don't know, those are Nazi symbols out of walls when he loses it, right?
Yeah.
That is a person that is a piece of shit.
Right.
Okay.
Right. They're making it personal.
Then when you confront, exactly, and when you confront him about it, and you say, "Why do you draw?" Are you? And I told him when I matched Phoenix, I told him, "Are you going to draw a swastika after this game as well when you lose?" And he said to me, "When you get off of Palestine, you Jew piece of shit." I'm like, well, you can be pro or against the Palestinian cause. That has nothing to do with me, what your political affiliation is. What does that have to do with me being born somewhere? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at that point, it's not political anymore. It's racial. It's like telling a black person to get out of the United States,
Right.
That's not a political thing anymore. That's a racist thing. And because of the account sharing of him and Revnak, I don't know that wasn't Revnak that typed that. I don't know if it was him or Phoenix, right?
Right.
I can be fair to assume that it's either him or him, because I have no idea. And the other Smurf account that they shared, which the swastika was drawn, we still don't know if it was Phoenix or Revnak that drew the swastika. And when I confront Revnak about it, whether it was in the DM on Discord, whether it was on his Twitch stream, whether it was in Twitch chats with other chatters, which, by the way, Spanky Forever, who is one of the most miserable people in the world, that told me that you should be thankful as a Jew not to receive more hate online, because you guys are genocidal maniacs, which again is an example of racism, not as much political affiliation. And then again, don't get me wrong, I have the utmost respect for anyone's political affiliation, because I think that is a thing that is, it's a right of man. It's a pillar of democracy. Everyone should be able to believe in what they feel is right politically. But
Right.
once you get to an aspect where you're starting to be not insensitive, but not hurtful, but violent, whether it be um, whether it be physical violence or oral violence, not oral violence. That sounds overly sexual, right? I don't know what the word is for
But engaging in
speaking
speech,
violence,
engaging in speech that
violent
is harmful.
speech.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There we go. Violent speech. Then that isn't free speech anymore. Then that is just racism. And when a person like that is at the head of a community, and when he recruits new people that have no idea about what's going on, the only thing that these people want to do that are in the House of Trading Posts is they want to learn the game. They want to have a top player, because Revnak, at the end of the day, he is a top player. They want to have a top player coach them on a game that they really like.
Right.
Like, we all have this phase in in a video game. Start playing, like, for me, I have that with CS2 right now. I can't stop watching pro CS2 players play because I enjoy it so much, right? And that's what Revnak is for them. But I have no idea what Monacy is like as a human being, or Donk, or all these guys that play professional CS. I have no idea what they're like as a human being. But if they would open up a Discord server tomorrow and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna teach you everything I know about the game, hell yeah, I'm gonna join, right? That's
Yeah.
like the logical conclusion to it of all the people in House of Trading Post.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But as a person who has that sort of sway and power, you need to know that a responsibility comes along with it. And when you over and over and over abuse that responsibility, not only in being an absolute piece of shit as a human being, but also in manipulating balance in the way that it only benefits you, and it makes your petty arguments with people you do not like more valid in your opinion, because he wants to nerf what, Germany and France, because those are Kaiser's main civs, and God forbid Kaiser Klein comes back to the game once and he won't be able to beat him after playing like 100 hours a day while Kaiser plays the game like 5 hours every 3 weeks.
So you're saying
like,
it's this. So I mean, you did mention that HOTP wasn't exactly it's not the worst thing out there in terms of a Discord, right? It's got its guides, it's for like, it's basically for like Revnak worship kind of. It's built around him, right? And so
yeah, definitely.
But you're saying that because of the influence that he has on players, right? He's recruiting people in. They're like, oh my god, the number one ranked player, like I get to talk to him, like I get to talk to the people that are his friends, like whoa, right? And so they get involved in that, and they don't know the drama, they don't know the history, they don't know all the other things he's done within ESOC, within Sunbros, within the official Discord.
On Free Food Party, by the way, he tried
yeah.
to take over our organization.
Yeah, and
he tried to take over Free Food Party a couple of times.
And the alternate accounts and all, there's so much blood under that bridge that we don't have the time to go over it. But that kind of influence, then he says, oh well, I want you all to, I don't know exactly what kind of impact that has on the developers, but no, France 1210 is broken, and no, Germany is absolutely like an S+ tier civ, and all these kinds of and he tries to prove it, right, through saying like, well, look at my Germany win streak, look at my Italy win streak, right, pointing these things out that are inaccurate. And then he is trying to push these players to then go and
well, yeah, you're like one of the best
that.
players in the game. You're obviously going to win most of the games you play. Your statistics are the epitome of irrelevant.
but then HOTP, like, it just becomes a place where Revnak is what you're saying is that he's manipulating people to push whatever his agenda is that day, right, to attack this other player, to influence the balance decisions.
Yeah, and the problem is that he's not alone in it, and he's got these cronies and minions that are as despicable human beings as him, because I'm not going to name a name, but one of these people that I'm very good friends with told me that one time he was invited to one of these Discord servers that him and his friends were hosting, and it was filled to the brim with like swastikas images and like pictures of racial supremacy claims of white supremacy and whatnot, and and Islamist fundamentalism and all of that, nasty stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you think to yourself, well, these guys aren't affiliated to him because he's a great player and an upstanding guy. No, it's because they're all kind of disgusting with each other, you know? And that's not someone that you can work with. So, as I said, obviously before, I'm a very big proponent of the community coming together and trying to, create a bridge or a bond. But as long as that person is not completely erased from anything AoE 3 related when it comes to the publication of the game or the cooperation of the community, there is going to be no cooperation, because as a human being he's so despicable and disgusting that he's going to try and take everything we do over, like he tried in every single community and organization that he did. He tried to take over Free Food Party, he tried to take over ESOC. I'm pretty sure he tried it with Sunbros a couple of times. I'm not sure, you're gonna have to confirm or deny that claim. But he tries to insert his will, and he tries to get worshipped by everyone, which in itself is not that big of a problem if you're a huge contributor. But when you're this despicable human being that expects much more in return than what you're actually putting in, then it's just not going to work. And him specifically with his cronies, really, Phoenix is one of them, which is just an absolutely horrifyingly disgusting human being. Like, I don't care how good you are at a video game, you're not gonna be anti-Semitic to me and I'm gonna just take it. It's just not gonna happen. Like, I haven't been raised the way I was to take shit from people who know how to click a button fast on a keyboard,
Right.
It's as long as they're involved in things AoE 3 related, the game's not gonna grow, at least on the competitive scene. And I really feel like it's that simple. Because if you look at ESOC, Free Food Party, Sunbros, all of these communities, we all get along. There's always one black sheep. And I wonder who that is.
Wow, that was a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, that there is this process that a lot of people are just unaware of and nor should they be aware, right? Like, you shouldn't be burdened by drama that stretches all the way back to 5 to 10 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's so that's somebody else's business. But to then be a new player and then to be influenced and manipulated in such a way without even really knowing it is really a shame. And obviously for the vast majority of the people that listen to this podcast, they're probably going to be Sunbros and FFP members and not exactly part of the HOTP group. And if you are part of the HOTP group, and if you're connecting with people there and you're having a good time,
we love you.
Yeah,
by
yeah,
the way,
you're fine.
We do.
Yeah, you're fine. Like, it's like you're just trying to get your information. You're doing what you need to do to improve in the game. But what we're talking about here is just that there's a specific someone and his specific someones who, just kind of, like you're saying, that it makes it harder for our content creators, for our pro players to sort of move on. You know what I mean? To change themselves.
It's not harder. I'm sorry. It's impossible.
Yeah.
For me, as a human being with a moral conscience, it is impossible, and it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I stand by it.
Well, I mean, what you were saying before about like doing better, right? Like you were saying, like I'm trying to be different, do better, and so this is what we're talking about, and being that new guard, right? To make a difference. So we're well past the hour mark. I'm just gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you one more question just to kind of round this out. What tier do you think Sweden is in right now? Do you think Sweden is S tier?
In my hands, it's definitely S tier. Anyone not named Shake 2020, it's probably a low B tier.
All right. Well, I guess that settles the debate. So Sweden, according to Shake, who is, as he would say, the expert, is a low B tier Civ right now, and in his hands, it is an S tier.
Hey! Julian, the current best player, says they're the worst Civ in the game.
He says that they're the worst in the game. Well, Julian also says that as a 13 to 1400 elo player, that I make mills in Age 1, and I promise you, I've never made a mill in Age 1 since I was like 10.
You should try it.
Since I was 10 years old or something crazy. Well, no, I still
Those
haven't.
Are good, man.
Even when I did,
even
when I would do like a Germantown farmer boom with the United States, I don't think I was making Mill's age 1. And also, that's okay if I make a mill in age 1 with that build, by the way. Like, it's absolutely acceptable.
You should make age 1 mills.
Well, you know, and I will say, I don't know if you can close your eyes and imagine what the age 1 mill looks like, but it has got to be one of the most beautiful and quaint buildings in the game. It is so people may, well, you're crazy, but no, go look at it.
I hate it.
No, it is adorable. It's got the thatch roof, which would be more accurate to the mills back then. It is, and it's so lovely. It's so lovely, simple. Honestly, my big bone to pick is that honestly, age 1 architecture should be age 2 architecture.
Mr. I'm a Jew. Historical accuracy is depressing. Please let me have my age 2 mills.
Well, historical accuracy may be depressing, right, as a Jew, but then also it's also very triumphant because the 6-Day War was quite impressive, right? The 1960s did happen.
We didn't have mills then, so I'm talking about the time of the mills.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah,
we're talking mill talk.
There was
right
the occasional pogrom. Yes, that's true.
Here and there.
Yeah, here and there. Well,
forget about it.
With that being said, I think that this was an intense talk. I think it's probably the most intense talk that I've had here, but it was really good. I think we covered a lot of ground. We talked about Free Food Party, we talked about tournaments, we talked about drama, we talked about patching, balancing. Sweden. We talked about Sweden. And we are going to go ahead and link FFP and all your relevant stuff there in the description. And you know, Shake and I are going to continue to have conversations and go forward. And I think there's a lot of potential for you and I and so many other people to really get together and start being that kind of new guard and making a difference in the community. And I'm really excited for that. So I'm really glad that you came on here and you were able to speak your piece. And thanks
for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. This is really good stuff.
Keep doing what you do, man. Keep doing it. It's very fun. It really is. And
I appreciate that.
Very neat.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's a different idea. Nobody expected it, but I think we have something cool here.
It is.
And so with that being said, everyone, I really appreciate you guys making it all the way to the end of this video. If you like what we do here at the Age of Some Bros YouTube channel, please go ahead, hit a like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know what you think. You know, if you totally disagree with Shake, you know, he's a big guy. He can take it. Let him know. And if you agree, let us know. And with that being said, you know, again, we got some fantastic things coming down the pipeline in the future. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will see you in the next one.